So I've been thinking about something ever since I've been taking music a little bit more seriously. And that's because before I made this change from filmmaking to music, obviously I had to think about it quite hard, seeing as that filmmaking was something so important and big in my life. And that was basically why. Why am I doing filmmaking? Why do I want to change to music? Why am I doing this as a creative person? What is driving me to create in the first place? Because when you're making a decision like that, it's pretty important to actually think about the reason why you're doing things. And since making that decision, I've realized something pretty crazy, and that is what you create changes you, it changes who you are. And that's because to create things, you have a certain thought process, a certain series of thought patterns. Maybe if you're making a video every week, you're going to be thinking more or less the same in terms of how you're going to go and create that video, what you're going to do to create that, the things you need to do to prepare yourself to create that, and then ultimately, when you are creating that, how you are fundamentally going to express yourself. It's kind of similar to this idea of we are what we repeatedly do, and therefore we are what we repeatedly create. So therefore, if you're changing what you're creating, you're changing your habits, you're changing what you're doing on a week-to-week basis, and over time that's going to compound, and you're going to become a slightly different person based on what you are creating. Now, a layer deeper down from that relates to why we create in the first place. Why do we create things? One of the ways is to simply express ourselves. But going a bit deeper than that, what does that actually mean? Well, I think it actually is, we're basically trying to create meaning. By expressing ourselves, we are creating meaning around this life that surrounds us. I think all art has some kind of search for meaning within it, whether it is appreciative, whether it is a discovery, whether it's inquisitive, whether it's questioning. I feel like any kind of self-expression through art is essentially related to either a search for meaning or a consolidation of a meaning that we might be discovering in that moment. An example of this is a couple of years ago, to write my first album, I went to the north of Spain and I was learning to surf. Throughout this process of learning to surf and giving myself a bit of time off work just to write songs, play a lot of acoustic guitar, I was living this very slow kind of life, and I had a lot of time for myself. And I started kind of having this search for meaning around this kind of life. And I, at the time, was very much in a phase of the slow life is how one should live life. And who knows, maybe that is the answer to life, I have no idea. I'm not really in that phase so much anymore, but during that time, then I wrote this song called Surf Check, which was all about that. Essentially, I was searching for some kind of meaning and then consolidating that into a song.
Keeping it simple, wondering how I could be a better man to me.
Actually, me and Dylan were getting drunk on some whiskey the other day.
Salud, coño.
Cheers. Having one of these deep chats. And he just told me, like, man, music is basically saying what you cannot say with words. Words are simply not enough. Like, words are simply insufficient for all of the complexity of the feelings that we have. And like the fabric of life itself, like this language is insufficient to communicate and to express. And that's where music comes in. And when he said it like that, I was just like, bro, this is some crazy shit. So how that relates to what you create changing you is basically that you have certain thought patterns that go into creating something. So beyond what you do each week as a reflection of your life, and that might change you over time, actually what's going on in your brain to create those things is kind of like learning a new language. And there's some science around learning a new language and how that literally can change your brain and how that can rewire neurons in your brain for you to see the world differently. Well, relating that to what Dylan said about art being a language, then changing what you create is going to change you fundamentally, because your thought processes, your thought patterns, your neurons over time are going to be changing in the patterns that they fire for you to be able to think in this new language. And that is just going to stretch you out of the box that you are already in creatively. So if you're feeling stuck, or specifically you are searching for some kind of creative growth, then changing up your art form may be one of the most powerful things you can possibly do. Your mind is going to significantly expand outside of the way that you have been thinking for a long time, and it will just start looking at the world and absorbing the world and creating meaning around what's around you in different ways, just based on what you are creating and the art form that you are choosing as a medium to do that. So wrapping this up with something a bit more practical, I found 2 ways that I've been able to change up the way that I am creating and the way that I'm able to see the world. And one of those things is going temporarily over to a different art form and then coming back to my own. So even something as simple as maybe I'm stuck in filmmaking, I can't find inspiration, I can't find motivation, then maybe what I might do is for the next week just try and draw a picture every day. And through drawing a picture, but really trying to connect it to my own emotion, expressing how I'm feeling, or trying to express some kind of concept through a drawing, I just might find a way to see filmmaking differently. Maybe I see color differently based on the colors that I'm using that I could apply to my films. Maybe I just create an entirely new concept of a film based on a drawing that I made. I know this has happened for me before with a song that was also on my first album called Nighttime. Before I wrote that song, I actually drew a picture, and then looking at this picture, I wrote a song about it. I drew this like really dark landscape that was kind of like an abyss, like some kind of like black hole. And then I was like, this is like what rock bottom looks like. And then I wrote a song called Nighttime, using nighttime as a representation of like the dark times. And that song came out of that picture.
We'll be here waiting for someone to come by in the nighttime. In the nighttime, we'll be here falling, drifting deeper into the nighttime. In the nighttime.
And the second thing is collaboration. Now, collaboration is like the most direct way to just get out of your box that you've been creatively limited in. This has been a game changer for me, and I would say collaborating is one of the best ways, if not the best way, to just get outside your box. You're basically having your box where your limited thinking happens, and you're like breaking it open by putting somebody else's box kind of next to it or on top of it, and you're merging all those ideas together. So that's a game changer. That completely changes how you think creatively and then what you're able to produce as a result of that. So by myself doing those 2 things, switching up my art form as well as collaborating, it's enabled me to change what I create, and as well as be myself on a journey to change along with that. So the example of that is also the announcement in this video, which is I've been collaborating on a brand new EP with artist and rapper Dylan James, who is one of my good friends here in Barcelona. It's completely different to anything that I've ever made, and it is the project that I'm most excited about in a long time. It's 3 songs and kind of take you on a journey. I think it's some of the highest quality stuff that I've put out, and it's just been a mad experience to be able to merge ideas and make some music that I never would have made myself by collaborating. So that is going to drop on the 29th of April, which is in around a month, or like 3-4 weeks. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll be releasing some teasers here and there on my Instagram, toms.tracks. And before then, for now, I have a song out on Spotify, my most recent single called Far Too Long.
I've been on my way for far too long. I've been coming up for far too long. I've been on my way for far too long.
And without going too much into it, it's about losing that sense of patience and this sense of process orientation and just being obsessed with the goal it's also this feeling of unapologetic confidence where you're saying, I'm done with waiting. So go and check that out on Spotify, any streaming platform that you like to use, that is in the description below. Stay tuned for the 29th. And of course, for the next video next Sunday. All right, guys, catch you soon. Bye-bye.